No maid lasted a week with the Italian Mafia boss until the American Maid did what no one else dared to do. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. 3 maids burst through the gates of Villa Mata as if fleeing hell itself. The first clutched her belongings in trembling hands, her uniform torn at the shoulder. The second stumbled on the cobblestones, screaming into her phone in rapid Italian, something about blood and gunshots. The third stopped at the gate, crossed herself 3 times, and whispered, "Che Dio abbia pietà della prossima." God have mercy on the next one. Sloane Sterling walked past them with a worn duffel bag over her shoulder, Brooklyn attitude in every step, and an expression that said she'd seen worse. "Dramatic," she muttered, adjusting her bag strap. The estate matriarch, a woman named Signora Orsola, who looked like she'd aged a decade in 6 months, stood beneath marble arches with a folder thick as a phone book and zero hope in her eyes. "You're the American?" Orsola asked, studying Sloane from head to toe, as if evaluating a soldier being sent on a suicide mission. "That's me. Sloane Sterling, ready to work," she said, extending a hand with practiced professionalism. Orsola didn't take it. "Did you read the contract?" "I did." "The whole contract? Even the clause about not holding the estate liable in case of incidents?" Sloane raised an eyebrow. "You mean the part that basically says work at your own risk, we're not responsible if you end up sleeping with the fishes?" "Yeah." Loved that part. Very reassuring. Orsola's expression didn't change. "Listen carefully. Don Mata is complicated. Complicated like Moody? Or complicated like Witness Protection Program? Complicated like 15 maids in 6 months. Most don't last 3 days." Sloane blinked. "Wow. That's almost a Guinness World Record. This isn't a joke." "I know," Sloane said, her smirk fading just slightly. "But if I don't laugh, I'll turn around and get back on that plane. And I really need this job." "Come," Orsola finally said, turning toward the dark interior of the villa. "He's waiting. And Miss Sterling?" She paused, looking back with something between pity and respect. "Don't say I didn't warn you." Sloane took a breath, straightened her shoulders, and stepped inside. The real question wasn't whether she could survive Don Cassian Mata. The question was, what happens when the monster meets someone who refuses to run? Before we continue with Sloane and Cassian's story, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what country are you watching from? What city? And what time is it where you are right now? We love seeing our global community come together for these stories. And if you're enjoying this tale of danger, redemption, and impossible love, smash that like button. Share this video with someone who loves dramatic romance, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our next story. Now, back to Villa Mata, where Sloane is about to face her first day working for the most dangerous man in Italy. Sloane lasted exactly 47 minutes before Don Cassian Mata decided to test her. The study was all dark leather and darker secrets, mahogany desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and windows that looked out onto manicured gardens hiding God knows what underneath. He sat behind the desk like a king on a throne, suit jacket perfectly tailored, gold chain catching the lamplight, tattoos creeping up his neck like ivy claiming a forgotten monument. He didn't look up when she entered. "Coffee," he said, not asked, commanded. "Espresso, now." Sloane set down her bag. "Good morning to you too. I'm Sloane, by the way, in case you were wondering." His eyes lifted, dark, calculating, designed to make people squirm. "I don't care what your name is. I care that you follow orders. Coffee, now, please." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "What did you say, please?" "It's a magic word. They teach it in kindergarten. You might have missed that day." Cassian stood slowly, deliberately, like a predator, rising to full height. He was tall, over 6 feet, broad-shouldered, and moved with the easy confidence of a man who'd never been told no in his life. He crossed to her in 3 strides, stopping close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and vaguely threatening. "You're trying to be clever," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Let me save you some time. I don't do clever. I don't do cute. I give an order, you follow it, or you leave like the 15 before you. Are we clear?" Sloane met his gaze without flinching. Crystal. But here's the thing. Don Mata. I'm not your soldier. I'm your housekeeper. And housekeepers don't respond well to being barked at like trained dogs. So if you want coffee, I'm happy to make it. But you're gonna ask me like a human being, not a tyrant, having a bad day. Silence. Then, impossibly, his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. You're fired. No, I'm not. I just fired you. I heard you. I'm declining. You can't decline being fired. I just did. Sloane crossed her arms. Look, I get it. You're trying very hard to scare me. Big scary mafia boss. Intimidation tactics. The whole routine. I respect the commitment. Is it working? Not even a little. For the first time in 3 years, Cassian Mata was speechless. The rest of the day was a masterclass in psychological warfare. He demanded she reorganize his entire library by publication date, then changed his mind and wanted it by author. He asked for lunch at noon, then refused to eat it because it was cold, after sitting untouched for 30 minutes. He tracked mud through the kitchen she'd just cleaned, watched her mop it up, then did it again. Sloane handled it all with the kind of unshakable calm that comes from scrubbing hospital floors at 3 a.m. and dealing with Brooklyn landlords. You're not breaking, he observed at sunset, leaning against the door frame of the kitchen. Nope. Why not? She looked up from scrubbing the counter. Because I've survived worse than you, Don Mata. And unlike your previous maids, I don't scare easy. My mother died slowly, painfully, while I worked 3 jobs to pay for treatments that didn't work. So forgive me if your little intimidation routine doesn't exactly make my top 10 list of traumatic experiences. Something flickered behind his eyes, something almost human. Get out, he said quietly. It's only 7. I said get out. Sloane left. At 2 a.m, she woke to the sound of glass breaking. She should have stayed in her room, should have minded her business like any sane person. Instead, she followed the sound to the wine cellar. Cassian sat on the concrete floor surrounded by shattered bottles, a gun in one hand and a photograph in the other. His eyes were red, his breathing ragged, and when he looked up at her, she saw it, the truth beneath the monster. He was completely, devastatingly broken. Leave, he whispered. Sloane knelt beside him and gently took the gun from his hand. Not a chance. Sloane stayed until dawn, sitting on the cold cellar floor while Cassian talked. He didn't look at her, couldn't, but the words came anyway, spilling out like blood from a wound that had never properly healed. Her name was Nivs, he said, still clutching the photograph. A young woman with dark hair and a smile that belonged to someone who'd never known fear. It means snow. She hated it, said it made her sound fragile. Was she? No. His voice cracked. She was the strongest person I knew, which is why they killed her. The story came in fragments. The Zanetti family, rivals encroaching on Mata territory. The warnings, the threats, the escalating violence. Cassian had thought he could protect her by keeping her close, by surrounding her with guards, by never letting her out of his sight. He was wrong. They took her on a Tuesday. Cassian found her body Thursday morning in an abandoned warehouse, positioned deliberately so he'd find her first. A message written in blood. I held her, he whispered, and I couldn't feel anything. Not rage, not grief. Just nothing. Like they'd killed that part of me too. Sloane didn't offer empty platitudes. She just listened. Where is she now? Chapel, East Garden. He finally looked at her. And before you ask, yes, I visit. Every day, because I can't let go of the woman I failed to save. 3 days later, Sloane was cleaning Cassian's study when she found it. A locked drawer in his desk, the key hidden inside a hollowed-out book. She shouldn't have opened it, should have respected his privacy. But something told her this was important. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a silk scarf. Cream-colored, delicate, with dark stains that could only be one thing. Blood. That's not yours to touch. She spun. Cassian stood in the doorway, fury and pain warring across his face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Get out. Cassian. Don't. He crossed the room, snatched the scarf from her hands like it was made of glass. Don't say my name like you know me, like you have any right to be here, touching her things. Sloane took a breath. My mother died 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She lasted 8 months. 8 months of chemo that destroyed her from the inside, made her so weak she couldn't lift a fork. I worked 3 jobs to pay for treatments we both knew wouldn't work. I held her hand while she died, and the last thing she said to me was, "I'm sorry." Cassian stared at her. She was apologizing. Sloane continued, voice steady despite the tears. "For dying. For leaving me with the debt, the guilt, the fucking emptiness of losing the only person who ever really knew me. And for 2 years, I kept her hospital bracelet in my wallet. Carried it everywhere like some kind of talisman, like if I held on to it tight enough, she wouldn't really be gone." She stepped closer. "But she is gone. And carrying that bracelet didn't bring her back. It just kept me trapped in the moment I lost her. Is that what you want? To be trapped forever? You don't understand. I understand that Neves is dead, and you're trying to die with her." The words hung between them like a challenge. "Come with me," Sloane said quietly. The chapel was small, old stone covered in ivy, with a courtyard that smelled of jasmine and grief. Neves's grave was simple, just her name and dates, no grand monument. Sloane knelt and began gathering kindling. "What are you doing?" "Helping you let go." She struck a match. "You don't have to forget her. You don't have to stop loving her. But you do have to stop letting her death define your life." Cassian stared at the scarf in his hands, at the blood that had dried 3 years ago, at the last physical piece of the woman he'd loved. "I can't. You can." Sloane stood beside him. "And I'll stay right here while you do it." His hands trembled. Then, slowly, he lowered the scarf to the flames. They watched it burn together, the silk curling, the blood turning to ash, the past finally releasing its grip. And when Cassian's knees buckled, when the sobs finally came after years of holding them back, Sloane caught him. Neither of them noticed the exact moment grief turned into something else. Something dangerous. Something that felt almost like hope. The kiss happened 3 weeks after they burned the scarf. Sloane was arranging flowers on Neva's grave, white roses, because Cassian mentioned once that they were her favorite when he appeared in the chapel doorway. No suit today, just dark jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, tattoos visible in the afternoon light. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "I know. I wanted to." He crossed the courtyard, stopped close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "Why?" "Because she mattered to you, which means she matters to me." Something in his expression shifted, the carefully constructed walls crumbling just enough to let her see inside. "Sloane, don't." She turned to face him fully. "Don't warn me off. Don't tell me this is a bad idea. Don't give me the speech about how dangerous your world is. I already know." "Then you know this can't happen." "Can't or shouldn't." "Both." She stepped closer, close enough to be reckless. "Then why are you looking at me like that?" "Like what?" "Like you're trying to memorize my face in case this is the last time you see it." Cassian's jaw tightened. Then he kissed her. Hard, desperate, like a man breaking every rule. She yanked the emergency brake. The car spun, tires screaming, gravel spraying, and then she was airborne, the world rotating in slow motion as the sedan plunged toward the ravine. The impact never came. Strong hands yanked her door open, pulled her from the driver's seat seconds before the car sailed over the edge and exploded into trees below. Cassian held her against him, breathing hard, eyes wild with fear she'd never seen before. "You're okay. You're okay. Look at me. You're alive. Someone," she couldn't stop shaking, "someone cut the brakes." "I know." His voice turned to ice. "And I know who." That evening, a woman arrived at Villa Mata in a car worth more than Sloane's childhood home. Allegra Morenzoni stepped out in designer heels and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Cassian, tesoro." She kissed both his cheeks. "We need to talk about the future." Sloane watched from the kitchen window as they walked through the gardens, Allegra's hand on Cassian's arm, her laugh carrying on the evening breeze. Beautiful, powerful, perfectly suited to his world, in every way Sloane wasn't. "She's proposing a marriage alliance," Luciano said behind her, appearing like his nickname suggested. "Her family controls the ports. Together, they'd be unstoppable. Good for them. You don't understand." His voice was soft, almost pitying. "In our world, love is a liability. It makes you weak. It makes you vulnerable. It gets people killed." He paused. Like today. Sloane turned to face him. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. The code exists for a reason. No outsiders. No exceptions. Because the moment we let emotion override strategy, we die. All of us. Then maybe your world needs to change. The world doesn't change for individuals, Miss Sterling. It crushes them. That night, Cassian found her packing. What are you doing? Leaving. Before someone finishes what they started today. No, Cassian, they tried to kill me. Your own people. And that woman, Allegra, she's perfect for you. She understands your world. She won't get you killed. And she definitely won't end up at the bottom of a ravine. He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbed her face in both hands. I don't want perfect. I don't want understanding. I want you. Even if it kills me. Even if it destroys everything. In your world, love is a death sentence. Then maybe, he said, voice breaking, it's time for a new world. He kissed her again. Softer this time, but no less desperate. Neither of them saw Vanny Valerius watching from the garden, his expression promising violence. Sloane was looking for cleaning supplies. That's what she'd tell herself later, in the endless hours locked in her room, that she was just looking for bleach and accidentally stumbled into a nightmare. The warehouse sat at the edge of the estate, past the gardens and the chapel, half hidden by cypress trees. She'd noticed Cassian and several men heading that direction earlier, heard raised voices, thought nothing of it. The supply closet was supposed to be in the back. She opened the door. The smell hit her first, copper and fear, and something chemical she couldn't name. Then her eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she saw it all at once. A man on his knees in the center of the concrete floor, hands bound, blood streaming from his mouth. 3 soldiers, standing in a semicircle, weapons drawn. And Cassian, standing over the kneeling man with a gun in his hand and an expression carved from stone. Broke o merda, Cassian was saying, voice cold and final as a judge reading a death sentence. Talked to the federales, gave them names, locations. You knew the price. The man was sobbing. Please, Don Mata, I have a family. You should have thought of that before you betrayed mine. Cassian raised the gun. Sloane's sharp intake of breath echoed in the warehouse like a gunshot. Every head turned. Every weapon swung toward her. And Cassian's face, God, his face went from executioner to devastated in the space of a heartbeat. Sloane, not in order. A prayer. Go back to the house, now. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't unsee the man bleeding on the floor. The casual way Cassian held a gun. The sudden understanding that this wasn't just some abstract concept. This was real. He killed people. He was about to kill someone right now. Well. Vanny Valerius stepped from the shadows, smile spreading like poison. Looks like the American stumbled into somewhere she doesn't belong. Vanny. Cassian's warning carried enough menace to stop anyone with sense. Vanny had never had sense. The code is clear, Don Mata. No outsiders. No witnesses. She saw everything. He gestured to the man on the floor. She knows what we do, who we are. She's a liability now. She's leaving. Right now. She saw nothing. She saw you about to execute a traitor. That's not nothing. Vanny turned to address the other men. By the rules we all swore to uphold, she can't walk out of here alive. You know I'm right. Luciano emerged from the corner, face grave. He's not wrong, Cassian. The code exists for a reason. She's witnessed an execution. Under omerta, the penalty is clear. You're suggesting I kill her. Cassian's voice was dangerously quiet. I'm suggesting you follow the oath you took, the one that's kept this family alive for 3 generations. Sloane finally found her voice. I won't tell anyone. I'll leave. I'll go back to New York tonight, and you'll never hear from me again. Your word means nothing. Vanny cut in. You're not blood. You're not family. You're a witness who can destroy us all with one conversation with the wrong person. Then what do you want? To shoot me right here? If necessary. Cassian moved between them so fast, Sloane barely saw it. Gun now pointed at Vanny. Touch her, and I'll paint these walls with your brain. The warehouse went silent. You'd threaten your own underboss? Over a maid. Vanny's laugh was ugly. You're proving my point. She's made you weak. Made you forget who you are, what we are. This is exactly why outsiders are forbidden. Cassian. Luciano's voice was almost gentle. Put the gun down. Let's discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss. She lives. Then you're violating the code. In front of everyone. Luciano looked around at the assembled men. If we let her walk, if we show that kind of weakness, we might as well paint a target on our backs. Every rival family will see it as an invitation. Cassian's hand trembled. Just slightly. Just enough. Take her to her room, he finally said. Lock her in. Post guards. The council will meet tonight. Cassian, Sloane started. Don't. He wouldn't look at her. Couldn't. Just don't. Two soldiers grabbed her arms. Not rough, but not gentle. As they led her from the warehouse, she looked back once. Cassian stood in the center of it all, gun still in hand, looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. Hours later, locked in her room with guards outside the door, Sloane pressed her face to the small window and watched the villa's great hall light up. Shadows moved behind the windows. The council gathering, her fate being decided by men who saw her as nothing but a problem to eliminate. She caught a glimpse of Cassian through the glass, head in his hands, shoulders bowed under the weight of an impossible choice. Love or loyalty, her or everything he'd ever known. And she realized with crushing certainty, she was going to lose. They brought her down at midnight. The villa's great hall had been transformed into a courtroom. Long table at the center. 12 men seated like judges, candles casting shadows that danced like demons on the frescoed walls. Vanni sat at one end, Luciano at the other, and Cassian in the middle looking like a man being torn in half. Allegra Morenzoni stood near the fireplace, watching with the detached interest of someone observing a particularly entertaining play. Two guards led Sloane to a single chair facing the table. She refused to let them see her hands shake. Miss Sterling, Luciano spoke first, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of tradition. You've been brought before this council to answer for violating the sanctity of family business. You witnessed an internal matter, a matter of justice, that no outsider should ever see. I walked into the wrong building looking for cleaning supplies. That's not exactly a capital offense. In our world it is. Vanni leaned forward, eyes gleaming with barely contained satisfaction. You saw Don Mata execute a traitor. You now know the face of our justice, our methods, our vulnerabilities. You're a liability we cannot afford. So your solution is to kill me? To add another body to whatever pile you're building out there? We do what's necessary to protect the family. Always have, always will. Sloane turned to Cassian. He sat rigid, jaw clenched, avoiding her eyes. Are you seriously going to let them do this? It's not his decision alone, Luciano said gently. The council votes. That's how we've operated for 3 generations. How democratic. A bunch of killers voting on whether to kill someone else. Careful, Miss Sterling. One of the older capos spoke up. You're not in a position to insult us. Apparently, I'm not in a position to do anything except die, so forgive me if I'm fresh out of respect for your feelings. Allegra laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. She's got spirit, I'll give her that. She pushed off from the fireplace, gliding to the table with predatory grace. But Vanni's right. She's a problem. However, she paused for effect. I'm prepared to offer an alternative. Cassian's head snapped up. Marry me, Cassian. The alliance we discussed. My family's ports, your family's distribution network. We'd control the entire eastern seaboard. Legitimate business. No more violence. No more risk. She gestured casually towards Sloane. The girl lives. We exile her back to America with enough money to start over. She keeps her mouth shut. We keep our secrets. Everyone wins. Except him, Sloane said quietly. Excuse me? Except Cassian. He doesn't win. He just trades one prison for another. Allegra's smile turned sharp. Better a comfortable prison than a grave, wouldn't you say? The council murmured amongst themselves. Luciano watched Cassian carefully. It's a generous offer. Strategic. It solves multiple problems at once. She'd be alive, another capo agreed. That's more than we typically offer witnesses. Vanni slammed his fist on the table. This is insane. We're actually debating letting her walk away, setting a precedent that outsiders can violate omerta and live. He stood, addressing the room. If we show this kind of weakness, every rival family will see it. We'll be picked apart within months. Then what do you propose? Luciano asked. I said no vote. Cassian's voice grew stronger, because there's nothing to decide. She lives. End of discussion. You can't just, I can. I'm the Don. And I'm telling you, all of you, that Sloane Sterling is under my protection. Anyone who touches her, anyone who even threatens her, answers to me personally. You're choosing her over the code? Luciano's voice was carefully neutral. Over everything we've built, I'm choosing her over fear. Cassian moved around the table, stood beside Sloane's chair. For 3 years I've been dead inside, going through the motions, building an empire on bones and blood, because I didn't know how else to exist. She reminded me what it means to be alive, what it means to want something more than revenge and power. She's made you weak. Vanny spat. No, she's made me human. Cassian looked at each man in turn. So here's how this works. You condemn her, you condemn me, because I won't live in a world without her. You want to follow the code? Fine. Kill us both. But you don't get to take her and leave me here. The council erupted, shouting, accusations, threats. And through it all, Cassian stood beside Sloane, unmoved as stone, hand resting on her shoulder like an oath. Vanny rose slowly, smile turning predatory. So be it. If you're on the edge of your seat, wondering whether Sloane will survive the family council, hit that like button right now. Your support helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when we drop our next video. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in Sloane and Cassian's story. Now, let's get back to the warehouse showdown. The attack came at dawn. Sloane woke to gunfire, sharp cracks that shattered the morning quiet like glass. She rolled out of bed as her window exploded inward, showering the room with fragments. Shouts in Italian. Running footsteps. The smell of cordite drifting through the estate. Cassian burst through her door, gun in hand, blood streaking his shirt. Stay down. What's happening? Vanny. The name came out like a curse. He's making his move. Called in favors. Brought mercenaries. He's trying to take the family. More gunfire. Closer now. Cassian grabbed her arm, pulled her into the hallway, where Senora Orsola was herding terrified staff toward the safe room. Go with them, he ordered. Like hell. Sloane, this isn't your fight. You made it my fight when you chose me over them. I'm not hiding while you die for it. A soldier appeared at the end of the hallway, not one of Cassian's, wrong colors, and raised his weapon. Cassian fired first. The man dropped. The warehouse, Cassian said. He'll make his stand there. It's defensible, symbolic. He wants everyone to see him take me down, where I execute traitors. They ran through smoke and chaos, past bodies Sloane tried not to look at too closely. Loyal soldiers fought Vanny's mercenaries in the gardens, turning manicured lawns into battlefields. The chapel was on fire. The warehouse loomed ahead, doors blown open, more gunfire echoing from inside. There's a side entrance, Cassian said. Wait for my signal. No more waiting. Sloane grabbed a fallen soldier's gun. It was heavier than she expected, real in a way that made her stomach turn. We go together, or not at all. Something fierce and terrified crossed his face. Then he nodded. They entered through the side door, low and fast. The warehouse was chaos. Cassian's men pinned behind overturned crates, Vanny's forces advancing, muzzle flashes lighting the dark like demonic fireflies. And in the center, directing it all like a conductor, stood Vanny Valerius. He saw Cassian immediately. There he is. The Don who chose pussy over power. Cassian fired. Vanny dove behind a support beam. Return fire forced them into cover behind a steel shelf. This was always going to happen, Vanny shouted over the gunfire. You got soft. Made us weak. Time for new leadership. Allegra's voice cut through the chaos. Vanny, this wasn't the agreement. Plans changed, Principessa. You want a Mata alliance? You'll get one. With me in charge. The firefight intensified. Sloane saw Luciano across the warehouse. Gun raised, but not firing. Watching everything with his ghost-like stillness. Then Cassian's gun clicked empty. Vanny heard it. His grin turned feral. Out of ammunition, Don Mata. How poetic. He stepped from cover, 3 of his men flanking him. Cassian pushed Sloane behind him, grabbed a knife from his boot. A knife against 4 guns. I'll make it quick, Vanny said. Professional courtesy. But the girl watches. She needs to understand what happens when you defy the code. He raised his weapon. Sloane didn't think, didn't hesitate, didn't calculate. She stepped from behind Cassian, raised the gun with both hands like she'd seen in movies, and fired. The recoil nearly knocked her down. The sound was deafening. Vanny's expression went from triumph to shock to nothing. He looked down at the red bloom spreading across his chest, then at Sloane, then collapsed. The warehouse went silent, except for the ringing in everyone's ears. Sloane stood over Vanny's body, gun still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steel. Nobody touches him. Nobody. Vanny's men looked at each other, looked at their dead leader, looked at this American maid who'd just killed an underboss without flinching. They lowered their weapons. Allegra emerged from cover, surveyed the scene with calculating eyes. Well, this is unfortunate. She gestured to her remaining mercenaries. We're leaving. This isn't our fight anymore. At the door, she paused. You deserved better than him, Cassian. But maybe you found it. Then she was gone. Cassian turned to Sloane. She was still staring at Vanny's body, at the man she'd killed, at the blood on her hands that would never quite wash off. Sloane. She looked up at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. I crossed a line. I know. I can't go back. I know. He pulled her against him, gun clattering to the floor, as her hands finally started to shake. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Don't be. Her voice was muffled against his chest. I'd do it again. For you, I'd do it 1,000 times. Across the warehouse, Luciano holstered his weapon. He'd watched everything. The hesitation, the choice, the moment Sloane Sterling stopped being an outsider and became something else entirely. He crossed to them slowly, stepping over bodies. The council will need to reconvene. Cassian tensed. Luciano, to confirm your authority. Luciano's thin smile was almost approval. And to officially recognize your consort. A woman who kills to protect her Don? That's not a liability. That's Scarfamiglia. He looked at Sloane with something like respect. Welcome to the family, Miss Sterling. For better or worse. Outside, dawn was breaking over Villamata. The estate was damaged but standing. The old order was dead. And in the warehouse where it all began, Cassian held Sloane while she finally cried. Not for Vanny, but for the person she'd been before she pulled that trigger. That person was gone now. But maybe, together, they could build something better from the ashes. The cleanup took 3 days. Bodies removed, bullet holes patched, blood scrubbed from marble. The physical damage was easy. The structural damage, the fractures in loyalty, the questions about leadership, the vacuum left by Vanny's death, that was harder. Cassian called a meeting of every captain, every soldier, every person with a stake in the Mata family. Not in the warehouse, not in shadows, in the villa's dining room, in daylight, with Sloane standing beside him. Things are changing, he said without preamble. The old way, violence as first resort, fear as currency, blood as business model, it's dying. Vanny saw weakness in evolution. I see survival, murmurs rippled through the room. We're moving legitimate. Real estate, shipping, investments, still profitable, but clean, legal. The kind of empire that lasts generations, instead of ending in a hail of bullets. He paused. Anyone who can't adapt is free to leave. No retribution, no hard feelings. But if you stay, you follow the new rules. An older capo stood. And what about protection? Territory? The other families will see this as weakness. Let them. Cassian's voice was steel. We'll be so well defended legally they won't be able to touch us. Lawyers instead of soldiers. Contracts instead of threats. It's not weakness, it's evolution. Luciano rose from his seat at the far end. Every head turned. The ghost's opinion carried weight that even Don Mata couldn't ignore. I've served this family for 30 years, Luciano said quietly. Watched it rise on blood and tradition. Watched good men die for honor and omerta. He looked at Cassian. And I've watched the world change around us while we stayed frozen in the past, calling it loyalty when it was really fear. He walked to stand beside Cassian and Sloane. The Dawn is right. The old ways are dying. We adapt, or we join them in the grave. I pledge my loyalty to this new vision, to this new family. One by one, the others stood. Not all of them. 3 captains walked out, which Cassian let happen without comment. But enough stayed. Enough believed. That evening, Cassian made another announcement at dinner, Sloane sitting beside him at the head table. Miss Sterling and I will be married. Here, In the estate chapel. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Signora Orsola nearly dropped her wine glass. Married? To, forgive me, Don Mata, but to the maid? To the woman who killed to protect me. To the woman I love. Yes. Orsola studied Sloane for a long moment. Then her weathered face cracked into something almost like a smile. Well, I suppose we have a wedding to plan. And Lord help us all, because this will be interesting. Interesting was an understatement. No, 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 Orsola said a week later, physically removing the white dress sample from Sloane's hands. Italian wedding. You wear cream. White is for virginity. And let's not insult everyone's intelligence. I thought Italians were Catholic? We are. We're also realistic. She thrust a cream silk gown at Sloane. Try this. And for God's sake, practice your Italian. You cannot say your vows in English like some tourists. They walked to the grave together. Cassian knelt, placed fresh flowers. Neves, you know I'm useless at this. But I wanted to introduce you to Sloane. She's everything. Sharp-tongued, stubborn, absolutely impossible. You would have liked her. Probably would have teamed up against me. Tears tracked down his face. I'll always love what we had. The dreams we made. The future we planned. That doesn't go away just because you did. His voice broke. But I choose to live now. With her. I hope, God, I hope, you'd understand. That you'd want me to be happy. Sloane knelt beside him, hand on his shoulder. The three of them, past, present, and future, in the fading Italian light. I think she understands, Sloane said softly. I think she's been waiting for you to let yourself be happy again. Cassian turned, pulled her into his arms, and wept. Not from grief this time. From release. From finally, after 3 years of purgatory, choosing to live. The chapel was transformed. White roses everywhere. For Neves, Sloane had insisted, mixed with sunflowers, because those were her mother's favorite. Candles in every alcove. The priest from the village, who diplomatically agreed to perform a ceremony that bent about half the Catholic rules. And 2 families that had no business being in the same room without weapons. On one side, Cassian's men in sharp suits, faces scarred by violence, watching everything with suspicious eyes. On the other, Sloane's people from Brooklyn, her uncle in a Yankees jersey under his suit jacket, her cousin Maria crying before anything even started, her Aunt Rosa already judging the wine selection. This is insane, Maria whispered to Sloane in the bride's room. You're marrying a literal mob boss. I know. He's probably killed people. Definitely killed people. And you're okay with this? Sloane looked at herself in the mirror. Cream silk dress, hair braided with tiny white flowers, her mother's wedding ring on a chain around her neck. He's also the man who held me while I cried about Mom. Who burns his demons so he can make room for light. Who's trying to be better than what he was. So yeah, I'm okay with this. The ceremony began with traditional Catholic hymns that Sloane's family sang too loudly, and Cassian's men didn't sing at all. The priest did the standard opening, then wisely stepped aside for the vows. Cassian went first. He stood before Sloane in a black suit that probably cost more than a car, tattoos visible at his collar, looking like sin and salvation wrapped into one dangerous package. I'm not good at words, he began. I'm better at violence, at control, at building walls so high nothing gets in or out. He took her hands. Then you showed up with your Brooklyn attitude and your complete inability to be scared of me, and you demolished every wall I'd built. You saw the monster and loved the man underneath. Now watch me become worthy of that gift. His voice roughened. Neves, wherever you are, thank you. Thank you for teaching me what love was, for making me believe I deserved it. I carry you in my heart, always, but today, I choose to live. For her. With her. He turned back to Sloane. I promise to protect you, to honor you, to try every day, to be the man you see when you look at me, to build a life that's worthy of what you've sacrificed to be here. Ti amo, per sempre. I love you, forever. Sloane's turn. She was already crying. Okay, so I had a whole speech prepared. It was eloquent, beautiful, probably made sense. She laughed through tears. But standing here, looking at you, all I can think is, thank God you're terrible at scaring people off. Because if you'd been better at it, I would have run like those other 15 maids and missed this. Missed us. She touched the ring hanging at her throat. Mom, I wish you were here. You'd love him. Mostly because he drives me crazy in the same way Dad drove you crazy. But also because he's good. Under all the darkness, under the reputation he's trying to be good. Her voice broke. I promise I'll build something meaningful with this life. Something that would make you proud. Back to Cassian. You asked me once why I cared so much. The truth? Because someone had to. Because under all that fear and violence and pain, I saw someone worth fighting for. And I'm Brooklyn stubborn. When I decide something's mine, I don't let go. She squeezed his hands. You're mine, Cassian Mata. The good, the bad, the absolutely insane. And I'm yours. Forever. The priest pronounced them married. Cassian kissed her like a man who'd found salvation, and intended to keep it. The reception was chaos. Rosa loudly declared the pasta was good, but not as good as mine. Uncle Tony tried to explain baseball to increasingly confused Italian soldiers. Maria got drunk and asked Luciano if he'd really killed people, to which he replied, "Ask me when you're sober," with the ghost of a smile. Luciano's speech stopped the party cold. I've been in this life 40 years, watched families rise and fall on blood and tradition, watched good men die for honor. He raised his glass toward Cassian and Sloane. These two, they're writing new rules. Evolution over extinction, love over fear. It's radical. It's dangerous. He smiled. Actually smiled. It's the future. To the Don and his bride. May they prove us old bastards wrong about everything. The toast echoed through the garden. Asterisk. Salute. Asterisk. Later, as the party wound down and relatives gradually stumbled to guest rooms, Cassian scooped Sloane into his arms. What are you doing? Carrying my wife over the threshold. It's tradition. I can walk, you know. I know. Let me have this. He carried her through the villa, past the study where they first fought, past the kitchen where they'd argued about espresso, past the chapel where they'd burned the past, to their bedroom. Their beginning. He set her down gently. She looked up at him. This dangerous man who'd chosen her over everything. Ready for forever? She asked. Cassian pulled her close. With you, absolutely. Outside, the estate settled into peaceful darkness. Inside, two broken people, made whole by each other, began writing a story that defied every rule. And it was perfect. The young woman who arrived at Villa Mata's gates 1 year later looked exactly like Sloane had. Worn duffel bag, nervous hands, eyes that had seen too much hardship. She stood beneath the marble arches, staring up at the estate like it might swallow her whole. Sloane watched from the entrance, one hand resting on her swollen belly, and saw herself in that terrified posture. You must be Elena, Sloane said, walking down the steps slowly. 6 months pregnant made everything slower. Welcome to Villa Mata. I'm Sloane. Elena blinked. You're the Don's wife? Guilty. Also former maid, current disaster, and perpetually hungry. She smiled. Come on, I'll show you around. And before you ask, no, you're not gonna die here. I heard stories about the violence, the previous maids who ran. All true. A year ago, this place was a nightmare, dressed in marble and money. Sloane led her inside, past walls that had been repaired, windows that no longer had bullet holes, floors that had been scrubbed clean of history. But things change. People change. Even monsters, if they want it badly enough. The villa was different now. Light streamed through open curtains. Laughter echoed from the kitchen where Signora Orsola was teaching some of the younger staff her pasta al forno recipe. In the study, Cassian sat with Luciano reviewing contracts, actual legal documents, not death warrants. That's the Don, Elena whispered, seeing Cassian through the doorway. He looks dangerous? He is, but the good kind now. Sloane smiled. Mostly. Cassian looked up, caught Sloane's eye, and his entire expression softened. He excused himself, crossed to her, kissed her forehead, then her lips, then bent to kiss her belly. How's she doing? Active. I think she's training to be a kickboxer. Takes after her mother. He noticed Elena, extended a hand. You're the new hire. Elena, right? Welcome. Sloane will take good care of you. She runs this place better than I ever did. Elena shook his hand, still looking terrified, and Sloane laughed. Relax. I promise. The only thing that'll kill you here is Ursula's portions. Woman thinks everyone's starving. Later, after Elena was settled, Sloane found Cassian in the chapel. He knelt at Nivi's grave, fresh flowers in his hands, but his face was peaceful. Hey, Sloane said softly. Hey yourself. He stood, pulled her close, careful of her belly, just checking in, telling her about the baby, about the new shipping contracts, about how we converted the warehouse into a youth center. He smiled. I think she'd approve. I know she would. They stood there in comfortable silence, the three of them, past, present, and future, coexisting without pain for the first time. The Empire's fully legitimate now, Cassian said as they walked back toward the villa. Real estate, logistics, investments. Luciano says we're boring. I take it as a compliment. No more violence. Not the organized kind. Though I did threaten to kill the contractor who tried to overcharge us for the nursery renovation. That's my man. Threatening people over baby furniture. They climbed to their bedroom balcony as the sun set over the Tuscan hills. The estate spread before them. Gardens where bodies once fell now hosting wedding receptions for staff. The warehouse that held executions now teaching kids art and music. The chapel that held ghosts now holding only peace. Cassian stood behind Sloane, arms wrapped around her, hands resting where their daughter grew. She kicked, strong, insistent, alive. She's going to be trouble, Cassian murmured against Sloane's hair. With us as parents? Absolutely. Sloane covered his hands with hers. Think about it. A year ago, you were planning to die in that wine cellar. I was running from my past. We were both so broken, we didn't think we deserved to be whole. And now? Now we're having a baby in a villa that used to be a crime scene, planning legitimate business deals, and I haven't been shot at in months. It's practically domestic. Cassian laughed. A real laugh, the kind that used to be impossible. You saved me. No. Sloane turned in his arms, looking up at this man who'd chosen love over legacy, life over death. You didn't save me. We saved each other. Then what's next? She grinned. That Brooklyn attitude. We didn't just build a life, Cassian. We built a legacy, one that says love wins. Even here, even in the darkest places. Especially there. And in the villa that had once been a monument to violence, two broken souls, made whole by each other, slept peacefully, dreaming of futures built on hope instead of fear. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. But this time, it was a story worth telling. And that's where we leave Sloane and Cassian. From a maid who refused to run and a monster learning to be human, to a family built on love instead of fear. From darkness to light. From broken to whole. Now we want to hear from you. On a scale of 0 to 10, what would you rate this story? Drop your rating in the comments. And tell us, what country are you watching from? What city? What's the time where you are? And most importantly, where are you watching this from right now? Your bed? Your lunch break? Your commute? We love hearing about our global family. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or kept you glued to your screen, please hit that like button. It helps us tremendously and lets us know you want more stories like this. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss our next story. Thank you for being part of our community. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember, even in the darkest places, love can light the way. Ciao, Bella.